She said, "If you can't handle me talking to other guys late at night, then maybe you don't deserve me." And in that moment, something inside me broke, but not the way she expected. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply said, "You're absolutely right." What she didn't know was that I was already planning my escape, and when she called me crying, asking, "Where are you right now?" the photo I sent changed everything. Fractured trust. That's what it felt like. Every time we argued past midnight, every time her voice sharpened against mine, every time she leaned on a line that cut more deeply than she realized. Maybe she did realize. I remember the night it all started to unravel, sitting on the edge of our bed while she scrolled through her phone, her face lit up by that little blue glow that somehow felt more intimate than any candlelight we'd ever shared. She wasn't hiding the messages, not exactly. It was worse than hiding. She was flaunting them, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of, replying to texts that had no place at 1 a.m, and when I asked her who it was, she sighed like I was the problem. She said it so casually, like a dagger slipped between the ribs without even the courtesy of a warning. "If you can't handle me talking to other guys late at night, then maybe you don't deserve me." Just like that. No pause, no softness. Her eyes locked on mine like she was daring me to object, daring me to prove that my insecurity meant I wasn't worthy of her love. And what could I say in that moment? What words could make her see the line between freedom and betrayal? I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the phone from her hands and hurl it against the wall, shatter both glass and illusion into jagged pieces. But instead, I sat still, a man carved out of silence, because I knew something then that she didn't. That words don't always have to win. Sometimes surrender is sharper than any retort. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I could have said. But what came out was even simpler, even colder. "You're absolutely right." She smirked, as if she'd won some invisible game we'd been playing. She rolled over, facing the wall, and left me staring into the dark with the echo of her words hammering inside my skull. That was the night I realized the person beside me in bed wasn't my partner anymore. She was my opponent, and I was losing. But love is a stubborn kind of war. You don't retreat after the first wound. You fight on, even when you know the ground you're standing on is already crumbling beneath your feet. So I stayed. I stayed through mornings filled with forced smiles and nights swallowed by suspicion. I stayed when her phone buzzed at 2 a.m. and she muttered, "Just a friend," without ever turning the screen my way. I stayed because love doesn't always look like joy. Sometimes it looks like endurance, and sometimes endurance feels like hope. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and every conversation became a minefield. She accused me of being controlling. I accused her of being careless. She laughed off my concerns, called me paranoid, asked me if I thought she'd ever cheat, and the truth was I didn't know anymore. The person I trusted with my soul had turned into a stranger. I couldn't read, but here's the thing about fractures: they don't heal on their own. They spread, they multiply, they turn small cracks into chasms, and soon enough you're standing at the edge, staring into an abyss that used to be your relationship and me. I was tired of staring. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The way she always held her phone with the screen tilted away. The way she smiled when a message came in but frowned when she saw me watching. The way she'd say "I love you" in passing, like someone signing their name on a receipt. Empty, obligatory. I caught myself thinking about a life without her. At first, it was just flashes me walking alone through the park. Me eating dinner at a quiet table for one. Me waking up to silence instead of her sharp tone. But the flashes grew clearer, sharper, more tempting. They became less of a nightmare and more of a dream. And yet, I didn't move. Not yet. Because some part of me wanted her to change, to wake up one morning and remember who we used to be. Some part of me hoped she'd put the phone down, look me in the eyes, and say, "I'm sorry. I've been wrong." But that morning never came. Instead, came the night she looked me dead in the eye and delivered her ultimatum again, even harsher than before. If you can't handle me talking to other guys late at night, then maybe you don't deserve me. That was it. The moment the fracture split wide open. The moment I knew that whatever we had wasn't love anymore, was a cage. And the only way out was to stop rattling the bars and finally walk free. Still, I didn't tell her. Not then, because walking away from love isn't always about slamming doors and shouting final words. Sometimes, the cleanest break comes in silence. Sometimes, the most devastating revenge is calm acceptance. So I smiled. I nodded. I said the words she wanted to hear. "You're absolutely right." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Silent resolve. That's what followed in the days after her ultimatum. The kind of silence that doesn't announce itself, but seeps in. Slowly, like water filling a room. She thought she had one. She thought my agreement was surrender, a white flag raised in the face of her stubborn independence. But what she didn't know was that in my quiet, something else had bloomed. A decision. For months, there had been a lease waiting on my desk at work. A new apartment across town, closer to the office, closer to everything I wanted to build for myself. But she had hated the idea. "Why do you need your own space when you have me?" She'd asked once, her tone dipped in sugar but laced with steel. And because I loved Herbie, 'cause I always let her voice weigh heavier than my own I'd let the papers sit there, unsigned, gathering dust like all the other choices I'd buried for her. But after that night, after her words cut me down to a man undeserving of her love simply because I wasn't willing to tolerate betrayal disguised as freedom, the lease no longer felt like a betrayal of us. It felt like salvation. I remember the moment I picked up the pen. The office was empty, just the hum of the air conditioning and the glow of fluorescent lights above me. My hand shook, not from hesitation, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. Signing that lease wasn't just about four walls and a roof. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, my sense of self that I had let her erode piece by piece. The ink bled into the paper, final and absolute. I felt something I hadn't felt in months, peace. A strange, unfamiliar peace that didn't need her approval. For once, I wasn't making a choice through the filter of her opinion. It was just me, my signature, and a future that finally belonged to me again. Of course, I didn't tell her, not yet. I went home that night, slipped into bed beside her, and listened as she whispered into her phone with that soft laugh I used to think was only mine. I stared at the ceiling, knowing that this was the last time I'd ever feel the weight of her next to me. But she didn't know. She thought I was asleep. She thought I was still playing her game. Every morning after that, I packed small pieces of myself into quiet corners of my bag. A book here, a watch there, things she wouldn't notice missing until it was too late. It was like digging a tunnel out of a prison cell one spoonful at a time. Unnoticed, patient, deliberate. Inside, I was already gone, but silence is not without storms. I raged in the quiet of my mind, replaying every conversation, every gaslit denial. Every moment she made me feel like less than a man for wanting the basics of love, honesty, respect, loyalty. I remembered the way she used to look at me in the beginning, like I was the only person in the world, and I compared it to now the way her eyes flickered with impatience, as though she was constantly waiting for someone else to text her, someone better. Still, I said nothing, because my words no longer mattered. My actions would. The day the keys slid across the leasing agent's desk into my palm, I clenched them so tightly they left impressions in my skin, metal biting into flesh, a reminder that freedom is rarely soft. It hurts, even when it saves you. I walked through that empty apartment for the first time, my footsteps echoing off bare walls. The silence wasn't heavy. It was liberating. Every empty corner whispered promise. Here, you will not be questioned, belittled, or made to feel small. Here, you will rebuild. And yet, a part of me mourned the love I had given, the home I had tried to build with her, the nights we once spent laughing until dawn. It's a cruel thing, to realize the person you loved most has become the person you need to escape from. When I returned to her that evening, she was on the couch, phone in hand, laughing at something I wasn't part of. She barely looked up when I walked in. "Where were you?" she asked, casual, careless. "At the office," I replied. It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. That became our pattern. Her nights were filled with whispers to men I didn't know, and my days were filled with quiet preparations for a life without her. I counted down the days until the move, each one a step closer to freedom. And then came the call. It was late. Later than usual, her name flashing across my phone as I sat in the new apartment, surrounded by unopened boxes and the smell of fresh paint. My hand hovered before I answered, curiosity outweighing caution. Her voice cracked through the line, trembling. She wasn't laughing anymore. She wasn't smug or defiant. She was crying. "Where are you right now?" she asked, desperation bleeding through every syllable. For a moment, I almost softened. For a moment, I almost told her the truth, that I was standing in the life I should have chosen months ago, that I still wanted her to understand even if I no longer wanted her beside me. But then I remembered every night I had asked her the same question, only to be met with lies, deflections, and half-dashed smiles. So I didn't answer with words. I lifted my phone, turned the camera toward the gleaming silver keys in my hand, and snapped a photo. The keys dangled in front of a brand new door, my brand new door, the future she no longer had the right to touch. I sent it without a single caption, letting the silence between us roar louder than anything I could have said. And in that moment, as her sobs echoed through the line, I felt it, the weight of chains snapping. The final break in the fracture that had haunted me for so long. I was free. Keys to freedom. That was the moment I realized the sound of metal clinking in my palm could mean more than 1,000 I love yous ever spoken between us. Those keys weren't just to a door, they were to a future I'd claimed back. Piece by piece, after being stripped of my dignity for so long, I stood in that hallway, the photo already sent, her voice trembling on the other end of the call. "Where are you right now?" she repeated, like if she asked enough times, I'd change my answer, or undo the truth she couldn't bear to face. But I didn't speak. I let the silence answer her. She broke it with sobs, jagged and uneven, the kind that carried both fury and regret. "Please," she whispered, don't do this. And hearing that, something inside me twisted, not because I wanted to go back, but because I remembered the version of her who once held me as though losing me would have been impossible. I mourned that woman, that love, that illusion. But mourning isn't the same as returning. I slid the phone into my pocket, turned the key in the lock, and stepped into my new apartment. The door clicked shut behind me, and with it, so did the chapter of my life that had nearly broken me. Inside. The place was bare, except for a few boxes and a mattress on the floor. But to me, it was a cathedral, a sacred space where her voice couldn't echo, where her laughter with other men couldn't stain the walls, where I could finally breathe without waiting for the next fight to erupt. I lay on that mattress, staring at the ceiling, hearing the muffled buzz of my phone as she called again and again. But I didn't pick up. Each vibration was a reminder. She still believed she had power over me, and each time I ignored it, I proved to myself that she didn't. The days that followed were quiet, but not the suffocating quiet of our old apartment. This was a healing quiet, a silence that belonged to me. I unpacked slowly, arranging my life in new corners, building rituals that didn't have to bend around her moods. Mornings began with sunlight on bare walls instead of her cold shoulder. Evenings ended with the kind of peace I'd forgotten existed. But freedom is never clean. She showed up at my door one evening, makeup smudged, eyes red, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone like it was her last weapon. "We can fix this," she said, her voice breaking in the doorway. And for a moment, I almost laughed out of cruelty, but at the irony. Because when I had begged her to fix things, she'd dismissed me. When I had asked her to put me first, she'd rolled her eyes. When I had told her my heart was breaking, she'd said, "Then maybe you don't deserve me." Now here she was, stripped of her defiance, asking for the very thing she had denied me. "I already fixed it," I told her, lifting the keys once more. They gleamed under the hallway light, catching her eye, reminding her of the picture that had gutted her. She shook her head, as if the sight of them was too much. "You're really leaving me?" I wanted to tell her the truth, that I'd left her long before the keys, long before the photo, long before she realized what she'd lost. That I'd been gone the moment she told me my pain was proof I wasn't worthy of her, but I didn't. Instead, I simply closed the door, and that was it. The final act, not with a scream, not with a storm of accusations, but with the simple, undeniable sound of a door clicking shut. People talk about love like it's a battle worth bleeding for. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to fight it, to walk away. To choose yourself when the person you love makes it clear they never will. In the weeks that followed, I stopped checking my phone for her messages. I stopped waiting for her to apologize, because I finally understood something she never did. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's a performance, a hollow echo, a cage. Those keys still sit on my counter, cold and solid, a reminder of the night I stopped asking to be enough. Every time I turn one in the lock, I feel it again, that rush of liberation, that deep, unshakable peace that comes from knowing I didn't just escape her. I reclaimed myself, and if she ever wonders where I am now, the answer is simple: I'm home.